This message didn't find you by accident, chosen one. There's a divine reason you're here, right now. You've questioned your worth, felt invisible, underestimated, uncelebrated it. But don't mistake heaven's silence for absence. Because in the stillness, when no one saw the tears, when your obedience wasn't rewarded, when your loyalty wasn't praised, heaven saw it all. Not one silent prayer went unheard. Not one quiet sacrifice went unnoticed. And God, He smiled. You touched heaven in ways this world could never grasp. You obeyed in private, and now you're being honored in divine timing. Even those watching from afar, even Elon Musk, in ways you couldn't imagine, are awakening to something deeper about you. Chapter by chapter, let's reveal the hidden reason why heaven is happy with you. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe before we get started, because this isn't just another message. The chosen ones are walking a secret path with divine favor all around them, and this is a reminder from God. And God bless all of you who have been helping through Super Thanks. Heaven sees your devotion, your prayers, and your silent obedience. Neither God nor I take your presence here for granted. Type 77 in the comments if you already feel this word in your soul. It's no accident that number exists. It's a sacred echo to the Most High, a prophetic signal that you're ready, all set to enter what has been preserved for generations. Are you prepared to get what others said you would never be eligible for? Prepare to take on your task head-on without hesitation. This is not a hype message. The truth is at issue. It has layers as well. You will discover a new level of revelation every time you watch it. This is the confirmation you've been praying for, so pay attention with your spirit as well as your ears. Heaven is happy. You're going to learn the secret reason why in this message. Let's get started. Chapter 1. You yes in the dark. You said yes to the chosen one even though it didn't make sense before the doors opened, the healing began, or the blessings ever touched your hands. When there was no shore in sight and life felt like a storm. When everything in your world didn't match the message God had given you in your spirit. Still, you said yes. It wasn't an emphatic yes. Stages did not announce it. It was a silent, shaky, holy yes. In hospital rooms, a whispered yes. And on lonely nights, a yes cried out. A yes said in between friendships, jobs, and breakdowns. It was still a yes, though. And that yes made all the difference. Heaven reacted because you had the proper heart posture, not because you said the ideal words. God didn't require your flawlessness. All He needed was your approval. He was able to move because of your yes. Furthermore, you weren't merely accepting a blessing when you said yes in secret. You were consenting to a Chakan transformation, a transformation that would cost you your peace, a transformation that would deprive you of your former selves, a transformation that would lead you through seasons of invisibility, fire, and silence. You didn't back down, though. Write amen for angelic protection and contribute with a super thank you up to $20. In the spirit world, that yes turned out to be the pivotal moment. That yes sent waves through generations, even though you were unaware of it at the time. If you said yes, you broke chains. By saying yes, you silenced curses. By saying yes, you triggered divine inheritance. Even the devil heard it. The attacks were therefore more intense. That type of yes isn't typical, which is why the conflict grew more intense. It poses a threat to darkness. It tells both heaven and hell that a real warrior has come to life. Selected one. Others refused, citing a need for clarity. In the midst of the chaos, you said yes. Others were hesitant because they required attention. Heaven stood to cheer, but you obeyed in the shadows where no one cheered or clapped. When you let go of your plan, God remembers. He remembers the times you trusted Him more than your reasoning, when you gave up control, and when you gave up your timeline. He was pleased by that yes. That affirmation put you in a position to receive divine access. That's what caused heaven to send angels to watch over you, lead you, and accompany you on your journey through the unknown. You were moved by faith, but others insisted on proof. You only needed His voice, while others required signs. That's what made you unique. Therefore, if you've ever wondered why things changed after you gave up, why the road narrowed, why some people vanished, or why your entire world changed. It's because your yes was genuine, and that yes is now paying off. Divine alignment is being brought about by that yes. Yes, that is the reason heaven is so happy with you at the moment. Because only those who have been marked with destiny and who are truly chosen can say yes in the dark and continue to walk as though the light is already shining. And you did precisely that. Chapter 2. You left what was killing you behind. Selected 1. What you gained is not the focus of this chapter. It's about what you sacrificed in order to develop. How loud you pray or how many scriptures you can quote won't make a difference in heaven. When you choose obedience over comfort, heaven is moved. When you leave something that seemed to be everything but was actually slowly taking away your life. Certain aspects of your past seemed safe and familiar, but you knew in your heart that they were slowly killing your soul. They were able to touch your flesh, but were unable to hold your soul. Locations that had a homey feel, but were unable to support your purpose. You were now constrained by mindsets that had previously protected you. Once helpful habits that were no longer able to accompany you where God was taking you. And you had every justification for remaining. It may have been justified. You had the option to numb the pain, stifle the conviction, and remain in the comfort zone. But you took a different decision instead. You left. You left relationships that only cherished your former self. You left environments that made your brokenness seem normal. You abandoned cycles that nourished your ego at the expense of your soul. Let's examine what this really implies in 7 potent and prophetic chapters. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe before we get started. For the chosen, this message is a divine revelation rather than merely content. And a big thank you to everyone who has been contributing to our ministry via Super Thanks. Your assistance goes beyond simple kindness. The collaboration is prophetic. God bless you abundantly for putting so much effort into this task. Now, put 77 in the comment section right now if this frequency resonates with your spirit. That figure isn't arbitrary. It is an affirmation in the spirit that you are not merely awake. Rather, you are rising with holy fire, heavenly authority, and generational courage, not with flight or fear. This message didn't find you by chance, chosen one. You came here because of God. Why? Because you're the first person in your family to get to the top without having to sprint. The first to confront it, resist it, and turn around. When it would have been simpler to vanish, the first to maintain the line. This word will not be finished by everyone. Only those whose souls are prepared to recall their identity and recover what has been taken. This isn't amusement. Spiritual stimulation is what it is. It's a mirror reflecting your transformation into a warrior. And you will uncover a new aspect of your heavenly duty every time you return to this message. Let's investigate further. Chapter 1. The battle of the bloodline started even before your birth. You were born into a battle that didn't begin with you, but it was meant to conclude through you, chosen one. The day you were born was not the start of the war. Long before you breathed your first breath generations ago, it started. They had besieged your lineage. Your current situation is not arbitrary. It's inherited. Your family has been caught up in cycles of retreat, quiet, terror, and submission for more than a millennium. You were preceded by great men and women, but many of them were spiritually muted. Not because they were untalented, but rather because they were spiritually overpowered. They were trained to conceal the goods they carried. Despite having aspirations, they never felt secure enough to follow them. Someone tries to escape every generation. Someone came close in every age, but they will be pulled back by something just before to the breakthrough. There would be a loss. They would be crushed by betrayal. Fear would spread. They would be suffocated by religion devoid of revelation. They were not helpless. The degree of spiritual struggle associated with their vocation just caught them off guard. Your family has always had powerful talents, but up until now, the fighting has always been more intense. Because something changed when you arrived. You did not just inherit their characteristics. Their duties were passed down to you. However, you have been addressing rather than collapsing. You have been building, not bending. You never quite blend in with your surroundings. You question the mindless actions of others. Even in your early years, you had spiritual opposition. You were able to see through it. You could tell when someone was acting. You detected energy that others failed to notice. You wept without knowing why. Because your soul sensed that something better was on the horizon, you were able to chuckle throughout bad times. You didn't act rebelliously. They were exposing you. Because the fight you were born into demanded extreme sensitivity, God was waking you up early. There was a reason for the agony you experienced. The conditioning was amazing. Not rejection, but solitude. For the sake of holy preparation, it was divine isolation. Generations have been waiting for a public triumph, while you were being prepared in secret. Your personal path hasn't been the only burden on your shoulders. You have been bearing the burden of the prayers of your predecessors. Through you, prayers that were never answered during their lifetime are now being answered. You couldn't blend in because of this. You always felt that more was expected of you because of this. This explains why you had more intense attacks, shed more tears, and recovered more slowly. Because you were repairing the timeline, not just yourself. You are the first person in 1,000 years to ascend rather than run. The spiritual reset button, the generational path, and the correction. And ego isn't the reason for this increase. It has to do with heavenly order. The goal is to repair what hell attempted to destroy. Confusion, distraction, heartache, treachery, and even self-doubt are all ways the adversary has attempted to stop you. However, none of it was successful. You remain here. You're still upright. You're still picked. Long before you got there, the war started. But thanks to your obedience, enlightenment, and determination to remain quiet, it is finally coming to an end. You failed to appear to carry on the curse. You came to destroy it. The evidence that the conflict is changing is your life. Your ancestors have been waiting for you. Chapter 2. You chose to stand even though the pattern called for you to run. Selected 1. The instinct was always the same. Run whenever spiritual warfare appeared in your family story. They fled when life became too burdensome. They fled when the reality became too loud. They vanished when accountability rapped on the door. A few became silent. A few became addicted. Without a partnership, some turned to religion. Some people checked out spiritually, but remained physically. It developed into a pattern of survival that was inherited. Don't face it, just bear it. Just bury it. Don't discuss it. Just hide it, don't heal it. However, you did the exact reverse. You didn't flinch, but you felt the same burning. Despite hearing the same doubtful voices, you remained firm. You felt like running. Actually, it would have been simpler to ignore it, to detach, to act as if nothing had occurred. But you couldn't let go of anything inside of you. You couldn't ignore the calling if it were deeper. Unlike the others, you weren't wired. You weren't made for running away. You were made for confrontation. And you stood in the light when generations before you would have vanished into the night. When the anguish became intolerable, you stood. When you were alone, you stood. Even your thoughts attempted to undermine you. Yet you stood when the voices around you shouted, "Give up." It wasn't merely a habit you broke. A spiritual expectation was broken by you. Your choice to remain anchored turned into a heavenly upend of a centuries-old pattern. Heaven listened when you declared, "No more running. Not in my bloodline. Not under my watch." You stood up for more than just yourself. You represented the young person in your great-grandmother who was deprived of the opportunity to dream. You represented the brother who chose to remain silent rather than speak. You stood for those who never felt comfortable speaking out and who wept in private. You represented the men who were unable to communicate their suffering and the women who continued to live in cycles of lovelessness. To become what they couldn't be, you were sent. The whole one, the standing one, the one who was healed. Standing still has its own force. Running is a spiritual stance that shows the adversary that you're not owned by fear, that trauma does not define you, and that you are not afraid of shadows because you have become light. And something changed in the spirit world as you stood up. Angels cheered, but you didn't hear at the moment. Prayers from the past were invoked. You rose, and the ripple effect began. Now the bloodline can breathe. Now the curse is breaking. Now the healing begins, the heavens said. Because you stood initially, generations to come will stand as well. You won't pass on fear to your kids. Faith will be passed on to them. Survival won't be the foundation of your home. Strength will be the foundation. For the only reason that you choose not to replicate what was modeled for you. You made the decision to be the first person in 1,000 years to stand up instead of flee the interruption, the holy disturbance. This is what sets you apart. Presence, not perfection. It's endurance, not ease. You came for the recovery. You remained committed to the task. When the battle broke out, you didn't flee. The purifying fire was welcomed by you. You allowed God to shape you. You're not simply standing now, either. You're becoming indestructible. Chapter 3. Your ascent is legendary, even though not loud. Selected 1. The world can't easily tell that you're on the rise. However, your name is already known in the spirit realm. This ascent has nothing to do with spotlights, staging, or lighting. It has nothing to do with notoriety, following, or acclaim. It has to do with assignment. You weren't raised for fame in heaven. You were brought up to be loyal by heaven. Your ascent is taking place in holiness, in quiet, and in secrecy. You're being fashioned in secret, while others are looking for platforms. You're pursuing vision, while others are for approval. You're waking up early, when only God can see your tears. When it would be simpler to say no, you are rising in your silence and saying yes to God. Every act of obedience that defies logic in the natural world but shapes your supernatural path is what is bringing you up. You're trying, but you're not soaring. Because you're trusting, you're soaring. This rising is famous because it will endure for a long time, not because it is particularly loud. After a heartache that might have destroyed you, you're rising. After being disregarded, discussed, and deceived by the people you prayed for, you are rising. After seasons that deprived you of everything, you're rising. You still made the graceful decision to get up. You took your time with it. You allow God to break what must be broken, heal what must be healed, and remove what must be removed. And now you're rising, not from publicity, but from healing. You're rising with discernment that came from fights rather than books, and with insight that cannot be taught. Fire-forged knowledge is what you carry. Additionally, you exude an unfake calm authority when you walk. There's no need to brag. Your fruit is speaking for itself. There's no reason to compete. The atmosphere is changed by your presence. Your character has already verified your return, so you don't even need to make an announcement. Scars surround your ascension, yet none of them bring you shame. They are your qualifications as a spiritual person. They serve as evidence that neither the agony nor the pit could stop you. You wear them as badges of pride, not as a reminder of your failure, but of your divine survival. How God called you, protected you, and kept you while others rejected you. Your ego isn't growing. You're essentially ascending. Additionally, your elevation is foretelling. It was composed. It was decided. Heaven had validated you long before they rejected you. The best part is that you don't need to tell anybody how it works. Let them question how you arrived. Allow them to whisper. Let them make assumptions. You are not here to protect your fate. You are here to experience life. You weren't called to be ordinary. Thus, you were never supposed to ascend with the throng. There's a reason you were chosen. And for that reason, your ascent seems distinct. It is deeper, quieter, and slower. It is sacrosanct, however. You cannot shake what God is constructing inside you. Furthermore, you cannot take what He is providing for you. This is not a miracle from a microwave. It's a timeless action, a climb to prominence, a change in legacy. And they won't just say you rose when God is finished. You alter the script, they will claim. Thus go on. Maintain your posture. Don't lose your oil. Don't lose sight of the one who wrote and completed your faith. Chapter 4. The enemy is more afraid of your position than your achievement. Select 1. Fully comprehend this reality. Your material success doesn't make the adversary sleepless. Your automobile, your title, your social standing, or even your financial account doesn't make him shudder. What's in your soul, not what's in your hand, is what trembles the foundations of darkness. It's not when you achieve external success. It's when you at last get to your feet internally. Your lifestyle has never matched your warfare because of this. The breakthrough was preceded by the assaults. Prior to the award, there was opposition. Because the adversary dreaded the day you would stop fleeing and begin to rise because he recognized something in you before you did. A brilliant individual without a spiritual foundation is not feared by hell. A grounded fighter who is aware of their identity in Christ is afraid of it. Because you become immovable, impenetrable, and unstoppable when you stand, not only physically but spiritually. You become a danger, not to a single circumstance, but to each stronghold that has been attributed to your lineage. Money has not been at the center of the conflict. The topic has been mantle. You didn't want her job. You were happy. The platform wasn't yours. It was the way you stood. He used delays to try to divert your attention, tried to use betrayals to break you, attempted to entice you into temporary solutions and false comfort. You didn't fold, however. You didn't run away. You remained steadfast, and it was the thing that rocked the dominion of darkness. You open gateways when you stand. Blessings are unlocked by generations. Timelines for prophecies come into play. Things that have been stagnant for generations start to shift. It was all because one member of the lineage refused to kowtow. That's you. You are standing for more than just yourself. The unborn kid in your family is what you're standing for. The forefathers who were never able to experience freedom are represented by you. You are standing for the future, which rests on a foundation of morality. Every secret prayer your grandma said,